Hi everyone, Vicky Schettini here, and I am really, really excited today. And I know I say this a lot, but this gentleman, he is amazing. I had the great honor and opportunity to speak with him. His name is Daniel Levin, and he has walked away from an opportunity to run a $1 billion business. Think about that. Why did he do that? To hitchhike, to hitchhike around the world to find happiness and inner peace. He studied for 5 years. His story just keeps on going and going. The most perfect thing is, and I want everyone out there to that is listening at this moment to go and get his book, The Mosaic. I am very pleased that I got the honor of being able to talk to him one on one, which I think it was so powerful, his message. We're going to do a special feature for you guys so you get to hear what had the pleasure of hearing. So thank you so much, Daniel, for being on the show. I am so honored that you're here. You just don't even know.
It is my honor. And isn't it beautiful when two people come together and feel what an honor it is to be with each other? That's what makes life exciting. Thank you so much for having me. I've been looking forward to being on your show for a while. So thank you. My honor.
Thank you. You know, last week we talked last week, and you had such a powerful message, something so simple that I really, really thought about it, and something that I thought I was doing, but I was to a degree. Why don't we share what your message is about?
Fabulous. You know, a message is powerful when it's given to you by not only by a 23-year-old developmentally delayed child, but also by a homeless man, and also
Yeah.
by a book that you write that all comes together. So, one of the things that I say is, isn't it intriguing that my life would be completely changed by a developmentally delayed girl, a homeless man, and a mosaic? I have the honor of having a daughter that's developmentally delayed.
Okay.
It hasn't always been an honor. And if you look at me, if you see us on video, you can see I have white hair and white beard. I didn't always have white hair and white beard. Most of this was black. But I think she has she in the paint palette of her life, she has made white what was once dark. And I don't mean that in good or bad terms. I just mean I've become white because there's been such frustration and anxiety and just worry about this girl who can't have a conversation like you and I are having. When she speaks, people don't understand her, and so it's very hard for her. And she counts on me to be her interpreter and understand her. And because I've been with her so much, I most of the time I do, but sometimes I don't. So when she speaks and I don't understand her, what she'll do is she'll raise her voice and she'll yell.
Oh,
And sometimes, to her credit, yelling the way she says it, she says something differently, and I get it again. But most times now it's just a louder, jumbled response to something I didn't know before, and it doesn't do me any good. I don't hear it. Well, when I don't hear it when she yells, she'll tantrum because she gets so frustrated that she wants me to understand it that she can't, and she can't. She gets it, and she'll tantrum in a store, she'll tantrum in a restaurant, she'll tantrum while we're walking down the street, she'll tantrum while she's having a bath, she'll tantrum while we have friends over or while we're at friends' house. It doesn't matter where. She doesn't have the social etiquette to say I've got to hold on to this and not do it. And when she tantrums and I still don't get it, then what she'll do is she'll run to me and she'll try and either rip my shirt or bite me.
oh,
And Vicky, I thought I was sort of an intelligent person, but this went on for about 15 years, sometimes as often as three, four, 10 times a day. And not every day, thank God, or else I don't know that I would have made her. But one time in the midst of her rage, I just looked at her and I said, Elisa, you know how much I love you. I adore you. What you were trying to say means everything to me. Can you please try and say what you're saying to me using something other than words? Because I don't understand your words. And from the midst of her rage, she just smiled, that smile that just melts your heart. And she looked at me and she said, I am daddy. Perfect English.
oh,
I said, "What the heck do you mean I am, Daddy? What are you doing? How are you talking to me?" And she just went like this. For those of you who aren't watching on video, she put her finger to her side of her head. And I said, "You little son of a gun, have you been putting thoughts into my head?"
I love it.
And she went, "Yes, Daddy." And she started to laugh, this contagious laugh that we laughed for probably 5, 10 minutes, but it felt like it was a year and a half.
I love it.
And so what I realized is, this is fascinating. From the moment we had that situation happen, she's never yelled, she's never tantrumed, and she's never attacked ever again. And Vicky, that would be an amazing story in and of
That's
itself
powerful.
if it was just that,
That's
because I had
powerful.
found a way to listen to her. But here's what makes it even more amazing. That little girl taught me that everybody in the world acts exactly the same way. When they speak and they don't get heard, they yell. When they yell and they don't get heard, they click in the situation they're in. When they create havoc and they don't get heard, destroy. That could be blowing up a business, it could be ruining a reputation, it could be ending a relationship, it could be closing down a marriage, it could be trying to destroy someone's name in public. We all do it. And it doesn't matter if you're in government or leadership or corporate a corporation or teach school or in a medical profession. It happens everywhere. And if we go back to the very first thing that would stop it from happening, is that if we would know how to listen to people, if we would look for ways to hear what they're saying when we don't understand it, if we would ask them to say it to us another way, when I listen to someone, they never need to yell. They don't need to tantrum and they don't need to scream because I've heard what they said. And so my
That's
practice
huge.
now is just to help people learn how to listen, because we just forgot how to listen. We're so committed to saying what we believe that we don't listen to what other people are saying about what they believe.
That's huge. That's something that really, after our conversation last week, I started thinking, and I really like to believe to myself that I did listen. And I did a lot to certain degrees, but did I listen to everyone?
Mhm.
One of the things that strike me, and that's why I brought it up at the beginning, you passed out the opportunity to run a $1 billion business to go hitchhike. What was
Yeah.
that all about?
So my book, The Mosaic, is really the story of my life in a fableized version. It's very easy to read. It takes about 2 or 3 hours to read the whole thing. And in the story, the boy loses his parents 2 years apart on the same day. And he asks the adults where his parents went. How is it possible he lost his parents? Where are they? He wants to find them. And the adults told him they're in a place called heaven. So that boy set out that day to find heaven.
Oh,
Now, what is heaven for most people on this earth would have been to be given the opportunity to go from a lower middle class family, like I was brought up in, to be with my aunt and uncle, who were an elite family in the world. My uncle became a household name. And so when he watched me and offered me the opportunity to take over his business, I had to say, I'm just a 15-year-old kid. I need to see who it is you want me to become. You've watched me for a few months before you made the offer, and you're smart. I'm just a kid. Let me watch you for a year and see what happens. Well, in watching him for a year, I had a few questions that I wanted to ask him. And when it came time for us to have our conversation, I asked him a few questions. And from those few questions, we determined that it wasn't the best fit for me. And what happened then is I became excommunicated, basically. And they said, you're going to have to make it on your own. And they couldn't do it. They tried to continue to help. But all the time, there was some string attached to it that I didn't really want to have attached to it. And so I had to leave, because what I realized is I didn't have an opportunity. I would have been a very successful version of trying to be somebody else,
yeah.
but that somebody else would not have been me. And so, as beautiful as it would have been, as much as I would have been able to do, as many times as I look back and think, boy, you idiot, why'd you walk away from that? You could have helped so many more people right now having those resources. I realized that I would have been an unhappy version of myself. And all too often, what we do is we sell ourselves out because we don't listen to who we are. We
Yes.
sell ourselves out to try and be what we think the world wants us to be, rather than just listening to what our own voice says. And my own voice said, Danny, you have to go around the world. You listen to other people. You have to find. I went to 2 years of school to study psychology, wondering if psychology would answer my dilemma. It didn't. So I went to India, hitchhiking around the world,
Oh,
thinking that maybe meditation and yoga would be what would help me. But I got stopped along the way in Israel and spent 5 years in rabbinical school and was almost
wow.
ordained. I left the day before I became ordained because it was no longer fit me. And then I sat for 10 years as a monk in a monastery in a yoga practice.
Wow, I didn't even know none of this. Okay.
And then what happened is after that, I left the monastery. I got married. I had a developmentally delayed child. My wife passed away. And in the last years of my wife's life, I started to work with a company called Hay House, which is a publishing company. And I helped grow them from $3 million to $100 million a year in sales. And all of it came from the simple thing of being able to see the world differently than other people saw the world. Because what happens in business in particular is we get stuck in these ruts where we see the world the way we see the world. We see people the way we see people. But we
Yeah.
don't realize there are other perspectives and other ways to see it. What they brought me into, I was invited into some of the most exclusive boardrooms to help them innovate and to help them see the world differently than they see it. And when we see the world differently, the world we see becomes different. Opportunities start to open up where they would never open up before. And it was in that innovation process that companies would invite me in and they would have huge results just from changing the way they perceived what they saw.
Wow. That's so true. I mean, it's very powerful. Um, Many of the things that you said, I like the part that many people at one point or another, if they're not still doing, have cut themselves short. They did settle for something that it wasn't what they were meant to be. And some people may still be stuck doing that because I believe it's fear. I believe it's fear of getting out there and doing, because it is scary what you're supposed to be doing. But after our conversation, the seeing things different, and I mentioned it to you today, it really did help me because I started really paying attention to everyone and hearing them.
Yeah,
Why were they saying what they were saying? You
yeah,
know, and not only that, if there was something that they wanted to change and it was, maybe I've tried it before, I went as far as explaining, hey, that's a great idea. And, I've done it already. I've tried it and this is the results I've gotten. So it's opened up more doors just even within the company. And like I shared with you today, I've had the most peace this morning. It's just unbelievable.
I love that. And,
Unbelievable. So it's
and
a very powerful message.
so let's just jump into it a little bit because when we learn that listening brings us information that we can never hear otherwise, then we start to become curious and inquisitive as to what is the world, what are the people around us, what is the situation we're in really saying. When I wrote my book The Mosaic, I spent 3 years writing a book that I thought would take 6 months because I was writing the book the way I wanted to write the book. And somehow, like maybe this conversation is mythical, maybe you're not here, maybe I'm talking to myself and I'm just imagining you here. But in the same way, the characters in my book came to me in almost like a Zoom call format. They
Oh,
were all on the screen. They were all on the screen. These are characters that I made up. Just these are not real people. But I had this sort of feeling that they were all on a Zoom screen, and I said to them, "Why are you making this book so hard to write? Why are you like?" I would write something that was great, and it would be lost in the morning. I would save it, and it wasn't saved. I would open it up; it would be a corrupted file. I would do it, and it happened over and over and over and over and over and over and
Wow.
over again. And I said, "What in the world are you doing? What is it that I'm not seeing? What are you trying to tell me that I'm not doing?" And one by one, the characters in this Zoom-like format said to me, "We want you to say what we are saying to you, not what you're writing for us to say. We don't like what you're writing for us to say. We don't want to say what you're saying. We want you to say what we're saying." And as soon as I did that, it took me about 6 weeks to finish the book. So
Wow.
so here's what's happened. If you're having problems with your business, have you ever thought to have a conversation with your business as you would with a person? Have you ever thought to sit down and say, what is it that you want me to see? That why are you creating this conflict? Remember my daughter's strategy: speak, yell, chaos, destroy. It's the same. Our business does the same thing. Our environment does the same thing. Our bodies do the same thing. Why is it in our bodies? Because we haven't listened to the message it wants to give us.
Yeah.
So when was the last time in your business you went and spoke to the male person? When was the last time you sat with them and listened to them as to what to do as
I
the
have
janitor?
not. I have to be honest, I have not. I don't even know what my male lady looks like or male men looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so imagine bringing together all the different pieces of the mosaic that's called our business.
Yeah.
And imagine bringing them together and listening to what they would say. What would the artistry of that mosaic look like if we actually allowed each piece to speak and that we actually listened to them?
Wow. It's true. It's true. I yeah, I mean just like I said, this last week everything has changed around for me. And, some was by listening. A lot actually was by listening, having the right key people, hiring the right key people because I listened.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's very, very powerful. And, even like you just mentioned right now, when do we talk to our business? And I guess I don't see it as me talking to the business, but I believe that God's always sending me a message. So when there's something wrong that's happening, I don't sit there and pout. I am supposed to what did I do wrong? What am I supposed to learn from this? So in
Right.
essence, I am listening. I am
Yeah.
talking to it to see what should have happened, trying to figure that out. So I think I am doing it. I'm kind of
Yeah.
feeling good that I'm doing it.
You should feel good. And if I could reframe it a little bit, just a slight little bit,
Perfect.
you're
Because
not,
I'm getting
you're,
tongue tied because it's kind of like a mind twister in my head.
yeah, you're not doing anything wrong. Does a wine, if you open up a wine 3 months before it matures, did you do something wrong? No, the wine just takes time for it to mature. It takes a certain amount of time for us to do what we're doing until we become open to do something else. And so you didn't do anything wrong. Every single thing brought you to the place that you are right now where you're actually starting up and do it. The other thing I want to say is when people speak to you, don't only listen to their words. A lot of what happened, because I've been praying for you since the time we spoke,
Oh, well,
a
thank
lot of
you.
what you're very welcome because you touched me and I just felt that there was something that could happen. A
And it
lot of
worked.
what happens, and it works. A lot of what happens is there's a vibration that we pick up in the conversation that's happening that I would like to invite your listeners to feel right now, because my words are only occupying your mind, but there's a transmission of energy that's coming to your heart and to your soul that I want you to just be open to. What would happen if we felt that? One of the that I love telling, if I have a chance, can I tell one more story?
You sure can. Yes, please.
Okay. One of the stories that I love telling is not I've had the opportunity to be with the richest people in the world and as friends. I've sat at their dinner tables. I've sat in their living rooms. I've met their children. I've met their parents. They've talked to me about what they see in me, and I've talked to them about what I see in them. And we've shared as equals, not that I had the money that they had, but they respected me and I respected them, and we had conversations. And it's been beautiful to have the opportunity to be with them and to be impacted by them and to impact them. It's been equally beautiful to sit on cardboard boxes with some of the poorest of the poor and have those same conversations.
That's deep.
And one of the things that I realized is no matter how much money somebody has, no matter how big their house or how torn up their cardboard box, no matter what border they live behind or what religion they practice or what color their skin, every single one of us wants the same thing. We want to all be loved and accepted. We all want to be listened to and heard. We want to be acknowledged and validated. And so one of the stories that I tell is not from the boardrooms of innovation that happened to change companies around, but from a cardboard box that I sat on with a man named Corey in San Diego. And I walked up to him because I just felt this desire to sit with him and just get to know him. And when I came up, he was very, very aggressive. He was like, "This is my space. Don't take it. Don't try and intrude. Go find another place to sit." And I said, "I'm not going to take anything from you, friend. I just want to sit here and just be with you a little bit." And it took about an hour for me to get to a place where he actually trusted me enough that we could actually have a conversation.
Wow.
And I looked at him and I said, "Corey, out of all the things that you've seen in the world, and you see the world pass by you all the time, what's one thing you would like to say to people if they would stop and listen to you?" He didn't pause for a second. He knew exactly what his answer was. He said, "I would ask each person to take 10 minutes out of the course of their life. 10 minutes is not a lot to take out of your lifetime. And find someone you don't know and walk up to them and ask them how they are. And then just listen to them. Don't try and
Wow.
fix them. Don't try and change them. Don't
Wow.
try and help them. Just listen to them." And I said to him, "Corey, all the things that you could say, why with that one? Why is that so important?" And he said, "Danny, you don't know this about me, but 3 months ago, being homeless is not an easy life to live. Sometimes I'm so ashamed of myself and embarrassed that I don't have a home. But on this particular day, people would come up and they'd pass me by. They would spit on me, or they would punch me, or they would kick me, or they would
What?
yell obscenities to me, or they would beat me up, or they would throw drinks at me." And he said, "I just thought, what in the world am I doing here? Like I'm not happy with the life that I have, and people are upset with me and causing me pain." He made a decision that night he was going to go around the corner, because around the corner was a more secluded street and it was dark at night. And he said, "I'm just going to take my life."
What?
And not 2 minutes after he said that, a man came out of nowhere and put his hand on his shoulder and said, "How are you doing, brother?" And he said tears welled up in his eyes and came streaming down his face. And he looked at the man and he said, "I'm not doing so well, sir. I'm sorry." And the man just sat down next to him and held him and said, "I'm here. Just tell me what's going on." He looked at
Wow.
he looked at me and he said, "Danny, the whole process took only about 10 minutes. But when the conversation was over, when I told him, when I cried my eyes out on his shoulder, when I told him about my life, when I told him what was going on, I realized I can't take my life anymore, because this man cared enough about me to stop his life cold in his tracks and just be there for me." He
Wow.
said, "That man has no idea that he saved my life that day." Well, here's the beautiful thing about the butterfly effect that they call the butterfly effect. Corey has no idea that the story he told me, I've told to millions and millions of people through talks I've given, workshops I've done, podcasts I've been on, radio shows and TV shows that I've been on. He has no idea the effect that his story has had on a world of people. And in his honor, what I ask people to do is take 10 minutes out of the course of your day and find someone you don't know and just ask them how they are and just listen.
Yeah.
Fight the desire to help them or fix them or change them or support them. Just listen to them and love them. If everybody did that, everybody in the world would have somebody who has listened to them for 10 minutes.
That's huge. That is really, really huge. Even just a smile. But I think that is very powerful because 10 minutes is nothing. It's going to come and go. You just thinking about things, you're going to lose 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It's not, everybody should be able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's a very, very important message. Have you ever gone to see Corey again, or you've never?
Oh, yeah.
You
Yeah,
have?
no, we bumped into each other several times in the course of that time. And I went back there specifically to see him not too long ago, and he was no longer there. But it doesn't mean I won't pass him on the street. But what happens is his message lives within me so much. But he doesn't realize how much he's impacting the world through just simply telling the story. So really the truth is, it doesn't matter what Corey realizes or what the man who helped Corey realizes. What it matters is that we all don't understand the power of one action that we do and the influence that can have on the world at which we live in. And in a world today where everybody's talking and very few people are listening, what would just listening to others do?
Huge. Huge.
I even had the conflict because look how much I'm talking in this podcast. And I know podcasts are places where we're supposed to talk. But I thought, how is it possible that you're giving me this assignment to talk about listening and all I'm doing is talking?
Because we're listening. That's what we're supposed to be doing. It's powerful. I mean, I really took it to heart since that last week. And it really has made a big difference in my life. And when I tell you that this morning was the first morning I had such inner happiness, like peaceful, and I really didn't want to get started with work, and I was okay with that. It really does change, and I hope those that are listening out there will take it to heart and really analyze. It's not worth it if you're killing yourself day in and day out doing something that you just don't like, or you know what, the work's still going to be there in 10 minutes. Tomorrow, it's still going to be there. So take that time, and you would be surprised how much better relationships are too. That I've noticed people even being happier when I walked in the room just by me taking that little time to listen.
Yeah.
People were actually excited. You can tell, like, when you walked in the room, the response I got.
Yeah. And on the other hand, what I find is everybody that I meet it wants to be heard. So how can you say your message in a way that people can hear you? How can you not have to yell, scream, tantrum, and attack? How can you say your message in a way that will get across to somebody so that they actually hear what you want to say? Because we can help people learn how to listen by speaking in a way that allows ourselves to be heard and them to hear. And so the
way you do it is very good, though. You're very calm, you're quiet, so your tone of voice, and you're a little bit, you're in the quieter side. You tend to stop and listen because you don't want to miss anything. Do you do that on purpose?
It's so ingrained in me. And part of what happens is people will say to me, your voice is so calming. But part of that is what I do on purpose is I place my voice at my heart so that you can actually hear me speaking, not from my throat up here where it would be more like this. You hear I put my voice from my heart, and I try and allow my heart to say the words that I'm saying so that it comes across with a feeling of love. So it comes across with a feeling of respect. My wife says to me, I can't believe you get away with saying some of the things you say to people. But because you call people on the carpet and you flip their whole life around. But when I say to people, are you okay with that? They said, I've never felt more loved in my life. Because when you love people, and you care about people and your voice reflects that love that you have for people, people are so hungry for that love. Remember, we want to be loved and accepted. We want to be listened to and heard. And you can love and accept somebody just in the quality of the voice that you put out. You can love and for those people who have businesses that are wondering how do they rebuild at this point in time after COVID,
Yeah.
it's a perfect opportunity to rethink how do you show up in the business that you live. How do you do it? How do you resonate? Where does your business now going to come from? It's not meant to be go back to the way it used to be. Something can change, and it can be subtle changes, like just from coming from a place of love rather than a place of control. Coming from a place of knowing we live in a benevolent world rather than where we have to dominate others. What would happen if we just asked our business, how do you want me to show up in you? What qualities do you want me to give? When I listened to what my voice was saying, it was saying, yes, you do speak a lot, but what that allows you to do is it allows you to occupy people's minds so that you can work so that you can feel their heart. So you're listening to their heart, you're listening to their soul, and what you're saying to them is what their heart and soul is saying to you and asking you to say back to them.
Wow.
That's what
powerful.
What's that?
That's very, very powerful. Very powerful. We're running out of time. Where would someone be able to get your book? I mean, it's just amazing. Even though I love hearing you talk because it is very soothing and calming and whatnot. And I don't know if it was consciously, part of it was consciously, part of it was subconsciously. You did occupy my mind, and I did take the steps, and it did work. So I urge those that are out there listening, try it. Try it. It will, it's all good that will come from it.
Yeah. So if people want to get the book, they can either get it at themosaiconline.com or they can get it on danielbrucelevin.com. I can send you those links so we can put it in the show notes. They can also get it on Amazon, The Mosaic, Daniel Levin. And I want to invite some other people because because COVID has happened, I have more space in my time. I'm doing less traveling now and I have more space to be with people. So if people feel drawn, if they feel stuck where they are, if they feel like they don't know how to get to this different place, contact me. You can get my contact information from any of the websites that I gave. Contact me and let's talk about how that would work under a separate conversation of what it would be like to work together and what that might achieve for you. What is it you want? What is it you need? And how would we be able to help that happen?
I think that's very powerful. And, like even when we talked about, even in businesses, when you do things differently, and you did mention to me a few things that you have done in the past, even in businesses that you have helped, huge difference. And I can see that. I know what I took into effect. It has in 1 week, it hasn't even been a week, has made a drastic change in my business. So I urge you again is read the book and contact him. What I'll do is I'll put all the links below or on top, whichever where we put the links at. I'll make sure we have all the links so that way it'll be easier for everyone to be able to contact you and get the book.
Thank you so much.
Thank you again for being on the show. It was an honor, and you have an amazing day.
You too. I love being with you. Thank you. Let's make this the beginning, not the end of our relationship together.
Definitely for sure. Thank you again. Bye-bye.